everybody, sit down. We're gonna get married now. Hi friends, welcome back to Disabled in Nature, where we talk about all things that are disabled in nature, and sometimes we might even go outside. Today we're going to be talking about wheelchair weddings, specifically mine. I wanted to share with you my journey of being a bride with a disability, why I chose to get married in my wheelchair, and what it was like to embrace my disability rather than hide it on my wedding day. There are so many expectations that are put upon you when you're getting married, especially if you're the bride. From the dress, to the hair, to your makeup, to the decorations, to how the ceremony should go, to the dances, everything. There's so much pressure to do things right. And when you're a disabled bride, there can be even more pressures. For me, the pressures of what being a bride should look like took a unique form in the question of whether or not I should get married in my wheelchair. If you've been here before, you know that I have a progressive disability called FSHD. It's a type of muscular dystrophy, which has slowly caused my muscles to weaken over time, and I have lost the ability to walk. But when I was younger, when I was growing up and as a teenager, I could still walk, and I only slowly began to become reliant on a wheelchair in my late teens and early 20s. So by the time I got married in 2021, I still had some residual ability to walk. So in theory, I could have ditched my wheelchair for my wedding and it would not have been present in any of the pictures or videos or memories of that day. But I chose not to. I got married when I was 24 and I had only been a full-time wheelchair user for about a year. I was at a point in my disability journey when I got married that I knew that my wheelchair represented freedom and mobility, and I didn't want anything hindering my mobility on my wedding day. I wanted to be able to be fully myself, interacting with people on the day as I wanted to, and that just wasn't going to happen if I had to walk. So I ultimately chose to embrace being a wheelchair bride. My wheelchair appears in every photo, every video of me from my wedding day. This choice to get married in my wheelchair, specifically when you think about the documentation aspect of weddings, was a really big step for me in my disability acceptance journey, and I want to tell you why I don't regret it even a single tiny bit. There are a lot of different things to consider when you get married as a disabled bride, but I will start with the quintessential wedding piece, the dress. I'll be honest, I had never really envisioned what my wedding dress would look like. I pictured my ring, which you can see here. It's beautiful. We picked it out together. It's everything I ever wanted in a ring. I had pictured my partner, but I had never imagined the dress I would be married in. And until we started planning our wedding, I had no idea how hard it was going to be to find the right one. There is so much pressure on brides to find the dress. And then put the considerations of my wheelchair on top of that, and it was really difficult to find the dress. The amount of Say Yes to the Dress episodes that I watched in this time period was embarrassing. Did I also mention that we were planning our wedding in 2020? It was not ideal. After much searching and debating and a couple of failed attempts, I bought a couple of dresses online. Like I said, this was in 2020, so online dress shopping was kind of really my only option. But I bought one that really didn't fit whatsoever. It was a large in what world, I don't know. And then I bought another one that made me look like a ghost from Little House on the Prairie. They were long gown type dresses that really weren't going to fit with my wheelchair anyway. So I did end up going with my original want for a dress, which was just a simple sweater dress. It was shorter, it only came about to my mid-calf, and it was more body hugging, so I didn't have to worry about it interfering with my wheels on the day. I had never imagined having to consider a wheelchair when I was planning my wedding. I grew up in such a state of denial and in the space of, let's not talk about that. Let's not think about the future and what abilities we may or may not have, because that's scary and that's admitting that we have a disability and we shouldn't do that because disability is bad. But what that led to was me not really preparing for the future and what big milestones in my life might look like as my FSHD progressed. So deciding, rather than to hide my disability and my wheelchair from the documentation of my wedding, from the photos and the videos, that I would embrace my disability and craft my dress and the day and my wedding outfit around not hiding, but around celebrating my disabled body, was such a big moment for me in my disability and self-acceptance journey. The dress was the first part. I mentioned how it was short and it was form-fitting, so it didn't interfere with the wheels. But it was also open in the back. That's important because my muscular dystrophy causes something called scapular winging, which basically means that my shoulder girdle muscles are becoming weaker over time. And so when I lift my arms, and honestly, even when I don't, my shoulder blades stick out in the back because there's no muscles holding them down. This is very, very visible if you're looking at me from the back. It was always a point of self-conscious for me, but when I found this perfect dress and I realized that it had a slightly open back, I chose to not let my self-consciousness around that aspect of my disability keep me from wearing my perfect dress. So that day I decided to embrace my wings. We even made my wheelchair itself into a work of art. My wheelchair was not a bystander on my wedding day, but an active participant. My mom made this beautiful rose and pine needle garland that we hung over the back of my chair, and it just made it look so elegant and like a piece of my outfit rather than just a piece of medical equipment. And she also made this wooden "just married" sign that we hung on the back of my chair after the ceremony for like the rest of the what limited amount of reception we could have, because it was March of 2021. If you remember what was happening then, it wasn't exactly a regular wedding, we'll say. But we were able to decorate my chair and make it a part of the beauty of the day instead of just something that was there. That was a really special part of it for me, and it ended up being gorgeous. I had gone through a long journey of self-acceptance by the time we got to our wedding, but going through that milestone and having that sort of finalization and my wheelchair and my very visibly obvious disability being cemented in time in my wedding pictures, which are pictures that we will have up around our house for the rest of our lives. And I'm really glad that I chose to be so out and proud about my disability on such an important day. Now, besides what I wore, there were a couple of other things that were influenced by me using a wheelchair on our wedding day. So the first thing will be the aisle. I know it's a big thing, especially in America and Western cultures, to walk the bride down the aisle. Now, me having a progressive disability that slowly took my ability to walk and made me look rather different while in that process while I was walking has led me to be stared at a lot in my life. I always had a little bit of a strange gait, and then now that I use a wheelchair, I get stared at all the time. So the concept of walking down an aisle where the purpose is for everyone to look at you and stare at you while you're like moving forward through space was honestly kind of a really triggering concept for me, and it made me very, very uncomfortable. So we did not have an aisle on our wedding day. There was no processional. My husband and I were out in the event space to greet people coming into the wedding. It was very, very small, like less than 20 people. Like I said, it was in March of 2021. It was a different world. But we were out in the space to greet people, and then when it was time for the ceremony, we all just kind of were like, "Hey, everybody, sit down. We're gonna get married now." That was fine for us. There was no pomp or circumstance. We just kind of assumed our positions at the altar, which brings me to how we modified that piece of it as well. There are so many times in my life that I am the only one in a room sitting down, and it can be honestly really isolating, and I didn't want to feel that way on my wedding day. So we decided that if I'm going to sit, everyone is going to sit. So my husband had a seat, our officiant sat down, our wedding party sat. So we all did the ceremony sitting down, and it was really, really wonderful. I am so happy that I decided to get married in my wheelchair and do some really deliberate things to embrace my disabled body on my wedding day. In reality, I could have done it without my chair. I could have walked in probably barefoot because I wouldn't have been able to have slayed in the 6-inch heels that I decided to wear. I could have sat down at the altar and had people come to me throughout the day and had people bring me things and just not been as mobile and looked physically normal in all of my wedding pictures and videos. But I'm so glad I chose not to. To have the ability to move freely and interact with the people that I loved on such an important day was really, really special to me. And I'm so glad that I was in a space in my disability journey that I was able to cast off the stigma of what it's like to be in a wheelchair, especially a bride in a wheelchair. And I'm super glad that I have that courage documented in all of our photos. There was a time when I would have done anything to not be perceived as disabled, especially in photos. So the decision to get married in my wheelchair, to cater the ceremony to what made me feel the most comfortable, to get the dress that I wanted rather than the one that would make me look the most bridal or hide my disability the most. The choice to decorate my chair and make it part of the spectacle rather than trying to hide it were all choices that really signified how far I really had come in accepting myself and my disability. And when I look back at my wedding pictures, I feel beautiful. I feel empowered. And I am so glad that we made those choices. So that's what it's like being a #wheelchair bride. If you use a wheelchair or have some kind of disability and you're planning your wedding or you're planning on getting married sometime in the future, my best advice is just make it your own and take that kind of adaptability and out-of-the-box thinking that you apply to your everyday life as someone with a disability and apply it to your wedding. It's your day and you can do whatever you want with it. I know that there are so many viral videos out there about the inspiring bride that leaves her wheelchair to walk down the aisle. And I don't know who needs to hear this, but you do not need to magically rise from your wheelchair and leave your comfort zone in order to be a valid bride on your wedding day. Your day is all about what works for you and your partner, and don't let anyone tell you any differently. That's it for this one, friends. Until next time, don't forget to get outside, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!